T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Launch Sequence Podcast. We've got an exciting show for you today. 4.0 at long last, after 7 years, I kid you not, 7 years, has released, kind of. It's on live servers alongside 3.24.3, but Pyro is out. Server meshing is working. We've got 500 plus people in shards playing together, getting server FPS rates of above 20. So things are looking good, but there are issues. That being said, I've brought in a good friend and return guest, voiDude, who, absolute best namer of ships, purveyor of names. Name Emporium, you would say, to talk about Piracy and how the game is playing currently in Pyro. What's the difference? Is it terrible? Is it Murder Hoboville? Is it fun? Thank you for joining me today, man. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing very well. Yeah, thanks.
Cool.
Happy 4.0 live-ish. Finally happened. You were saying it's been 7 years. It's crazy, huh?
Yes. It's actually almost to the day. So this episode, holy crap, guys, pour one out. This episode is releasing, at least for a lot of you, it's going to be basically at midnight tonight here on the west coast of the US. But for a lot of you, you'll be hearing this probably on the 23rd of December. And 7 years ago to the day, December 23rd, 2017, is the day that Alpha 3.0 released. And it was terrible. like we all have our trauma from 3.18, which was bad, and we have our expectations for 4.0. People thought it was going to be bad. It's, we're going to get into it today. It's been bad and good, but compared to 3.0, things have been nice. Yeah. That was rough. Yeah, that was like 9 months of rough after 3.0 came out. It was before that, it was 12 months of not a single update. It's just, they held everything back. It was, so
we've been through some droughts, right?
Yeah. We're in a better place.
As you say, like the snappiness, right? It's those consistently high sort of frames. It's like, I was playing the EPTUs leading up to this launch quite sort of fervishly.
Mm-hmm.
As it, there were a couple of builds that were like, you're like, wow, this is happening, kind of a thing. And then everything just went downhill, I think, as they opened it up to more waves. And then it was like, oh man, everything's screwed again. We're just gonna have to sit back and wait and see. And then I think it was the Thursday or the Friday build that dropped, and it was like, guys, this is insane. Like, this is, I'm walking around my ship, things are snappy, things are instant. This is, and it maintained that stability. And that's when I was like, okay, this is like, is this going to happen, kind of a thing? And as always, right, it's super anecdotal. Somebody's having the best time of their life, and there's another 9 or 10 people who are having the worst time of their lives. So,
that's what we were going over this in Citizen Central, which will be coming out in a couple of days. And some of the people in the show were like, it's been miserable. It hasn't been working. I've been having a tough time. Other people were like, yeah, I've played for 4 hours and had a fantastic time. Some people are like, oh, you're on obviously you're on streamer servers, that's why they're working so well, because it's not working well for me. And people are like, are you playing the same game? So as always, Star Citizen is hit or miss.
And I mean, that's a crucial thing, right? For any game to get right, is to ensure that everybody's having a similar experience. It's a weird thing within the Star Citizen space, right? I mean, if you all, Path of Exile, I'll use that as an example because I'm playing that on the side. Everybody jumps into Path of Exiles having the same experience, right? And it's such a weird, unique thing for a game to have so many different experiences across the entire player base, right? And it's always been that sort of that server lottery type of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think theoretically we should see less of that technically with the server meshing now working the way it is currently working. I think it's been one of the most overwhelmingly positive things I've seen about this since the live preview is that at least for the first 12 hours I streamed playing the game, absolutely no problems. As I ended that stream, that's when we started to have like inventory issues and things started to sort of fall apart. And then I think yesterday I was out, I didn't get to play much. And they released like a hotfix and people were like quantuming into the sun and nobody, the inventory pending issues were back. And it was, it just felt like this massive step backwards. But then this morning we jumped onto a server and we've been playing sort of good couple of hours today with no issues. So
yeah, It's all over the place, and that's part of what makes it feel like not a game. I mean, that's what makes it not a game, right? Is they haven't put in the work to make it a consistent, optimized experience. But before we get really deep into how Pyro is playing in 4.0 and all that, I do want to give people the chance, if they, for some odd and very, very weird reason, haven't heard about you, fix that, okay? All of you. And I'm going to give you the resources to do so. I want you to let folks know what kind of content you make, what makes you valid to be talking about gameplay in Pyro, and where they can find you.
Cool. So I upload ludicrous space adventures to the YouTube channel voiDude. Pretty much exclusively Star Citizen content, a lot of gameplay focused stuff, and it's just my experiences playing the game that I try to compact and, well, not compact, but like edit into nice, digestible, fun to watch, entertaining, YouTube videos, right? Ranging from what, 8 to 20 minutes a pop, depending on what's in there and how much there is to go. And it's, I have a lot of fun doing it. A lot of people seem to enjoy the videos, so I'm going to keep on making them. And I question all of your taste in your YouTube entertainment.
They're good times, dude. I just really love mouth-made gun noises. So I'm a sucker. I'll keep coming back as long as you do that.
That was apparently a classic example of turning an absolute like a tragedy into like some kind of ridiculous win, because a lot of people compliment me on that video. Dude, they're like, man, we need more of that. I'm like, okay, must just play the game with no sound. Like what is this?
I'm telling you, man, Star Citizen success are the glitches we met along the way.
Exactly. I think the only reason why my channel started doing one is because of all the fails at Jump Town. People are like, I want to watch this guy die getting mazed. It's hilarious. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like Star Citizen is the kind of game that it has such cool experiences and good times, but they're separated. They're like islands that are surrounded by just absolutely crappy experiences.
Yes,
like the game is freezing and just ruining you.
Yeah. And that's kind of what that emergent gameplay, for all intents and purposes. I don't know if a lot of people consider the emergent gameplay words as like a marketing buzz thing, but I honestly believe that Star Citizen has put that foundation down. It's not all there yet, but there's a bunch of that foundation there for that emergent gameplay to continually take place, right? Maybe this is something we can jump into later, but like the fact that the missions and contract systems aren't functioning, they're not in a great space at the moment. And that for a lot of people, and rightfully so, that's kind of like a game breaker, right? A lot of people want and prefer to have some kind, or need to have some kind of guidance and mission system, quest system to tell them where to go and what to do. For me, it's completely the opposite, right? That's like 15% of the gameplay. The rest is like going around, figuring things out, finding out what other people are doing, and then stealing their stuff, unfortunately. But I mean, that's not all that, right? I mean, Pyro is a brand new world. There's reputation. There's more PvE content in the pipes coming soon. What I've been able to experience so far, it looks very interesting. The reputation, right? I mean, we've got a choice to make between Citizens of Prosperity and Headhunters. There's a lot going on, man. And super exciting times.
Yeah, so the mission problems is an interesting one, because I think that is one of the biggest parts of the game that would transitions people's idea of it from being an alpha to a game. There's popular ways to categorize gameplay. A lot of people will take basically PvE content, which generally seems to be referring to what people call missions or packaged gameplay, like from the mining and stuff like that. And then they will consider combat. Like this isn't everybody, but a lot of people will take PvE content, put it in its own pocket, and then take combat, PvP content, multi-crew gameplay, and put all those in their own pocket together, and say if any of those things are being focused on, then generally that like small scale PvE content seems like it's being ignored, and those missions are the key to those people feeling not ignored. So I definitely would say that, given the vibe that Pyro already had for people going into it, if missions also aren't working, we're going to have just even less people really interested in taking advantage of that. So hopefully that works soon. But I am glad that they've gotten this mission refactor done, because it feels like maybe we'll get more missions in finally.
Yeah. I mean, I think Fair was on earlier today, one of my org mates, and he was saying that global chat is just completely filled with people talking about how the mission contract systems are just completely down, and people that's one of those things that can be a blocker for some, right? Aside from the fact that everybody's just quantuming into the sun. But for me and the type of gameplay that I like cannot get enough of is just going out there and seeing what's happening, and it's even more exciting now because this is where the progression track is, right? With 4.0, it's the live in all practical sense of the word, right? Even though they associated that word preview with it, in my mind, this is where the live experience is. This is what, barring any catastrophic failures or changes or exploits or something, it's debatable with whether they'd wipe again or not. There's a couple of issues that I've seen pop up, but I don't know if it's worth discussing or not. And that's what matters, right? So 3.2, 4.3 is going to get deprecated. That's no longer, your progress there is going to get wiped regardless. But you can, it feels like a perfect fit-all solution, right? People who haven't finished their, Stanton stuff, like actually participating in the game, regardless of the fact that there's a wipe coming, you still get rewards for doing so. I feel like, I made a video about this and a tweet that became quite popular on, imagine if they just had take a step back from all these crazy events like the Slicer Idris, Safe Stanton, Xeno Threat, Siege of Orison, and focused on like background goals of the core gameplay stuff that we have today. Do your salvage, do your trading, do your missions, do your bounty hunting, and again, when we have a conversation like this, we have to assume in a world where this stuff just works consistently. Do that stuff and then have like long-term goals for people to earn stuff associated with their accounts. Then you put yourself in a situation where you never have to worry about, playing the game, but why would I play because there's a wipe coming? There's a reason to play because you can get a reward, an out-of-game reward associated with your account that becomes an in-game reward, right? Yeah. I think that this, when that idea hit me, I was like, CIG should have been doing this all along, right? Because you run into these massive problems where a wipe is announced and then for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, the game is dead. Like it's absolutely dead. Yeah. I am biased. I realize that I'm biased because my gameplay is dependent on other people having a good time and being able to trade and being able to do this stuff.
So you can ruin it.
But this is the thing, right? My ideal, we'll call a spade a spade. We do piracy. Piracy is where it's at. There's nothing better than disabling an enemy ship or a target ship that's filled with something valuable, having that encounter, the situation, the environment dictates what is necessary in that situation, right? We've had situations where we came across an organization's caterpillar that was leaving with a bunch of RMC or something. But the org mates were there, and they it's very rare to see like a fight break out like this where people are organized and they're actually playing with their teammates and they've got escorts and stuff. We were able to track. We all got wiped out by them. They had overwhelming numbers and firepower. They wiped us out. Their caterpillar, fell to the surface of Hurston at night, and we managed to get like one guy alive, and he acted as like a marker for us to come back. And they had too many numbers. So now what they had started doing is moving all of the cargo from that downed caterpillar, the soft-deathed caterpillar, onto another ship, onto Hercules, 2 Hercules. And me and Nerve were like, cool, you sneak onto that one, I'll sneak onto this one. And all of a sudden, you've got this like insane infiltration, space sci-fi adventure on your hands. And it was probably, that's one of my top 5 moments ever within Star Citizen. You cannot, no designer could have scripted this encounter. No, nobody can develop this type of stealth gameplay when you're actually hiding from players in their line of sight and stuff like this. To me, this is incredible, right? I eventually boarded my Hercules. We had guys scanning from the outside who were staying out of range and could tell us how, funny enough, the guy who scanned my ship said, yeah, there's only one guy on board. There was 2. I ended up dying. And they've got away with his Hercules, And this is just, it's unbelievable gameplay, right? And it tells a very fascinating and crazy story, right? And this is why I'm so addicted to this game.
How'd you sneak on the Hercules without them seeing you come in? Like flying in on a ship?
We immediately landed, like turned off everything, and you just jump out. Like there's ways to reduce your signatures and stuff like this. I think they weren't paying very close attention either, and this is one of the biggest things, right? I know in your conversations with the community and the sort of the topics that you have discussed a lot in the past is the situational awareness that a lot of people they tend to lack in the game, right? And then this gets abused by other players who just want to cause havoc, destruction, murder, hoboing, and I use this word loosely, griefing, right? Because I think true griefing is a whole other kettle of fish, right?
Yeah, that's a whole
playing the game and
conversation.
doing PvP and stuff is, that's one thing. Killing on site, I made a video called "Is Star Citizen a Dark Forest?" a very long time ago. I don't want Star Citizen to turn into a dark forest. I want people to, if you took it every time that you encountered another person in Star Citizen, be it now Pyro or even back in the day with just Stanton. Do you want every encounter? Do you want to be on the back foot? Do you want to have your guns raised? No, you don't want this. You want it to feel like this living, breathing, cool, awesome universe. And again, the discussion is always like, are we talking about this now? Or are we talking about this in the future where there are systems to support this, right? I've seen videos of guys now trying to figure out trade in Pyro. And they'll load up their cargo ship and they'll head to one of the places that has already become very well known for intense PvP in Pyro, and this happens quickly, right? There's no guide, there's no CIG developer putting this out. There's no in-game codex to say, oh, be careful of this location. It's just become known as a dogfighter hotspot. It's
there will
just
be,
what it is.
And I think that people are missing that.
Exactly.
Like they think this is how it always will be.
Yeah. And he'll come in and try to trade at this location because he wants to test trading now. And as he's coming in, he can see a massive fight going on in the distance there, and he completely ignores this, right? Comes in, before he even gets to the outpost, all these guys have just started attacking him, and he's now panicking. He doesn't know he's in nav mode, he's in SEM mode, he's got to press buttons and figure out what to do. Assumes that the station, the outpost, will protect him, start firing missiles at the attackers or the stuff. It's Pyro, right? And gets taken out and loses all his stuff, and that's the end. He's not happy. He thinks there's no point in trading in Pyro. He thinks every single experience is going to be the same as that. But in doing this whole encounter, he did not register that this could be a dangerous situation. I should be careful. Maybe I should come back later. And this is the other problem with like a mission-based contract system. It's like the mentality of, and I could be way off base here, but this is just what we've discussed amongst ourselves, our personal experiences type of thing. Your average player will get a mission. It'll tell them to go to a location. This location could be in Pyro. It could be a hotspot for PvP. The mission doesn't really say so, even though it is insinuated throughout a lot of the contract sort of descriptions. That's like, this is Pyro, be careful. How have you been?
Yeah.
They literally, I've actually read things that say like, oh, how have you? I don't know how you've been surviving so long, but they try and add some stuff into the lore to make it really feel like this is a dangerous place.
Man, we're gamers. You really got to hit us over the head with that stuff.
yeah, for sure. And now, as the player, you have this mission. You didn't start off in Elwyn Forest at level 1 in a friendly zone. You started in Pyro. You've accepted one of the first missions that popped up on your contract feed, and you go and you do this thing. You're kind of now, and the average player might have sort of tunnel vision on this thing. This is what I'm going to. The game is telling me to do this. I'm going to go and do this thing. And that's not really how I've ever seen Star Citizen working. It's like look at Jumptown. You get the mission to go get the maze, right? How many players out there do you think accepted the Jumptown mission, went to Jumptown, grabbed one box of maize, put it on their ship, flew back to the station, sold it, and said, cool, I'm done with Jumptown? That was never the point of Jumptown, right? You could do that over and over and over and over again, right? You could load up on hundreds of boxes of maize and go and make insane amounts of money. And then the actual game, regardless of what the contract says, is to steal from other people, and Jumptown becomes this insane paranoia fest of orgs taking over control, or solo guys trying to get an infiltrate, or snipers on the periphery trying to snipe in.
Yeah.
It just so much evolved from just that one simple thing of go there and get boxes, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I see most of the other missions, right? If now contractors are seeing missions to go, I mean, it's again a more nuanced discussion, because you've got contracted cargo isn't worth much, therefore pirates they're not actually that interested in mission-based contracted cargo. But the mission should serve as a thing that says like, cool, let's go to this Golden Riviera on Bloom, buy this stuff, and while you're there, you're probably gonna see some NPCs, loot some boxes, encounter some other players. They'll probably be hostile, and you have this whole thing. Okay, cool. Like, what now? You got to start thinking like, what do? Do I stay in the sky and just observe? Do I go somewhere else? You have all these options, right? Do I call for backup? Do I just go in and land and try and survive? Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And this is what makes Star Citizen like very unique. Even though the mission is tunnel visioning you down onto this objective to accomplish this thing, you're not safe, right? You're going to get ganked, you're going to get murder hoboed, you're going to get griefed for all intents and purposes or whatever. And what I love about your topics on this is that the game is not. It's not actually. A lot of people can sit back and say, "Oh, well, this is ridiculous." Of course, this is how Star Citizen is, right? It's a PvP zone. But a lot of people, they don't see it that way, right? I have very close friends who 100% guaranteed hate the idea of playing a game where PvP is on. And these are my friend, the guy that I'm referring to. He's like a hardcore gamer. He's been playing games his whole life, but he understands that as soon as you play a game with other people, they will ruin your experience. Like, full stop. This is just how the internet is. This is how games are. Unless it's incredibly structured and incredibly gated, and the tools are there to sort of make this work, right? I don't have the most experience in EVE, but I think they handle a lot of the stuff very well, as far as I understand it. It's like for some people, it's a guaranteed thought. If you play this game with and other people are allowed to do what they want, you're going to have a negative experience. A lot of content creators in the community seem to think like, oh, well, obviously it's Pyro, this is how these things work, like, and they've already created the culture around this. And I don't think, I honestly do think it is a CIG problem. It has to be something that becomes regulated in some way, right? I'm not saying regulate Pyro and make things difficult for anybody to do anything. Pyro should be the system where it is lawless and anything can go wrong and should go wrong. But you cannot expect players to then enjoy it. You know what I mean? If you look at, sorry, you feel free to interject at any moment here. But if you have look at something like World of Warcraft, right? When, like, back in the day when your high end raids were gated behind highly a lot of time investment, right? You had to get 25 or 40 guys online at the same time, and you'd go through this really hard raid and get the loot at the end of the tunnel, and only 1% of the entire Warcraft community at the time could accomplish this. So you've gone and crafted levels, assets, monsters, encounters, voice lines, all this AAA development has gone into creating this encounter, and only 1% of your player base is experiencing it. And that is why we saw the trend of World of Warcraft becoming easier with time, to let more and more people in to access the content, right? Mm-hmm. Is that a similar problem? Are we seeing the same thing taking place in Pyro, where CIG have gone and made all this amazing stuff in Pyro, and now only a fraction of your player base will get to experience it because it's a PvP zone?
Well, I think the biggest thing that affects the way people are receiving Pyro, and this is going to be something that we really get into here in a minute, is the way that people perceive it is so completely off. I mean, even just from the stories that you've just talked about, that person who flew into a battle expecting everybody to not regard them, that person would probably say, hey, I don't have cargo. They have no reason to kill me. Killing me is griefing. But it doesn't matter if you fly into a battle. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, we can't just draw up conflict rules for every possible thing that would happen in this game and then write down strictly what does and does not dictate force can or cannot be used at that time. There's got to be some understanding of the value you have, what you are reflecting to the outside world, what the people in the outside world are thinking. Like, you got to step out of the game for a second and into a situation that's quite like the real world, in which you ask yourself on Earth here, what do I do if something happens? Because there is no stopping it from happening and pausing and disconnecting. Like, you got to go through it. And you could disconnect from Star Citizen, you could do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, there's not going to be a rule that says, oh yeah, that person's not going to shoot you because they're in that space. Maybe they have their armistice zones now. That might even leave at some point. But, like, there's going to be, that person might shoot you if you don't have your guns exposed, or if you have a ship without a turret. Like, literally the difference of getting attacked could be in a C1 with no turret or a Zeus with a turret. Same size ship, same kind of stuff it's carrying, same vibe of player using it. But that little deterrent of that turret being there can make a difference. And I think those little things will stack up. But the biggest thing that people are missing here, and it's important because I think CIG has to protect characters as well. It's this speech, I make it sound like I don't want players to get any protection, but I do. And they don't have it yet. Like, Pyro is end game. Pyro is the late stage of Star Citizen. They built the starting system in Stanton. Now they're building the ending system in Pyro. the systems in between there, Nyx, Castra, and Terra, aren't made yet. So obviously it's going to be weird to play in Pyro for a little while. I think that's the big thing.
Is this your interpretation, or is this something that...
No, this is that's their... I mean, so some of that comes from CitizenCon, just the way that they've laid out what it is. And we know the systems ourselves. Nyx is a lawless system, but it's not controlled by gangs. Terra is basically the center of humanity, so it's safer. And Castra is a military system, so it's safer. Stanton is the starting system. We know that that's where really the factions in the story are starting from. I think it's going to be Hurston and Microtech, I believe they're starting from. And I've also possibly heard some whispers and murmurs behind the scenes. But Stanton's our starting system, Pyro's are late stage.
I like that train of thought of like thinking of Pyro as like, you know, if you broke it down to like a classic RPG game, it would be like, cool, Stanton is level 1 to 20, Pyro is level 60 to 80 kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
But I also, and this is why I love Star Citizen, is that that's not hard coded anywhere, right? It's not like nobody's forcing you to not spawn in Pyro and like start your adventure from nothing by just scraping around to survive there. I've had the best time just trying to scrape armor together off NPCs, and like, you know, because you're too scared to do anything. You can't afford, you know that you can't afford those ship repairs and stuff like this. It is such a fun and amazing time to play the game right now, if this is how you do play the game, right? Because it's a whole nother discussion to talk about how people have access to so much stuff from subscriber gear and buying ships and, you know, the pay to win element and stuff like this. But if you really just grab your Aurora or grab your ship that you enjoy flying and you go to Pyro and you try and make your way through the game, it is so much fun right now. Like, I cannot stress that enough. You know, and this is the thing. A lot of people playing the same way will kill you for the gear on your back, right? They will kill you for a backpack. And I think that's fine, right? That's very Pyro mentality. It's like, oh man, I really need like some heavy armor. Oh wow, that player happened to have heavy armor. I found him. I won the encounter. I'm taking his stuff. I don't condone like killing everybody on sight for the fun of it. I really don't see the point. And you know, going back to what you were saying earlier about, you know, this is how I've kind of positioned this in my brain. I was talking about this to my org the other day. It's like Chris Robertson and CIG have sold this dream, right? When you look at Star Citizen for the first time, or from an outsider's perspective, it's like, cool, come play this game, become Mando, the Mandalorian, become Luke Skywalker, become Han Solo, become Captain Picard, right? This you buy your ship and live this sci-fi dream of, you know, be the captain of your own vessel, right? Then that person's like, cool, I'm the Han Solo, I've bought the ship, I've invested the cash. Then they go down to an outpost on Pyro, get attacked by a swarm of fighters, realize they don't know how to react or operate or fend off this encounter, or not get put in this position in the first place. And then they're sitting there with this feeling that they're not Luke Skywalker, they're not Captain Picard, they're not, you know, the Han Solo, and they just got wrecked, right? Yeah. They're the extra during the Battle of Hoth who got sniped out of his, you know, 80-80 kind of thing, you know. And that's a hard pill to swallow, right? You've paid the money, you want that experience, and you bought your ship, you feel entitled to this experience, and then you don't get it. You know, you realize, oh, it knocks you down to earth. And people can either accept that and enjoy the game and play the game and see the fun in this experience of just being a cog in the machine, or they will go to Spectrum and make a you know, like a WTF is Pyro, Chris, what, you know, CIG, what have you done? You know, this is not what players want kind of a thing thread.
Killing the game. Everyone's leaving. Well, so, you said it. You said it yourself, that these things aren't hard-coded. They aren't rules. It's just like I was saying, like, nothing's going to stop you and say, hey, you can't do this. Now, CIG has...
Should it?
They have the responsibility of offering those tools. So
exactly,
the star map, you know, the Galactopedia, ways for us to be able to look at the star map and see where is risky, where is economic flow happening, where are crimes being reported. Reputation needs to be something that can warn you who is who. Like, we have to get to that point that you said at the beginning of this show, where we're not just on our back foot always thinking somebody's going to attack us. As a pirate, do you roll up to somebody and open comms? Or do you shoot first? We
try to, but, you know, at the moment, you know, again, if I was to summarize my top 5 best experiences in the game, it's when VoIP works and you can communicate, right? And with that being something, hopefully, that we get right sooner than later, those experiences just get better and better, right? It really just depends on how desperate the crew is at the time. If somebody's just, if people are broke, they probably won't negotiate. But if you can negotiate and actually convince people to give you 50% of their worth or they die type of thing, extortion, this type of stuff, that works very seldomly. The overwhelming mentality that players have is, as soon as pirates rock up and they start negotiating, they're holding that backspace button and they're taking everything with them, everyone with them. And I think that's it's kind of sad. It's a cool play, right? It can be a cool play. It can lead to some insanely fun moments. And there's means and ways to deal with this, right? You can scan ships and see if self-destruct is active and all this type of stuff, right? So it just adds to the drama, it adds to the excitement, it puts more fuel on the fire of the fun that I have with this game. And people are entitled to do what they want, right? If some people have policies of like, I will never negotiate with pirates. If I see them, I will self-destruct, I will ram them, I will this, I will that. And that's fine, right? Like do that. But again, one of my top 5 experiences, unironically, is when I got pirated by Space Cutlet and his crew. Me and Fair were busy doing salvage on the EPTU, which was the first time that salvage was introduced to the game, and Space Cutlet rocked up and started pirating us. And we immediately did like a counterboard EVA, and it was so much fun. It was literally, I would become a trader full time if I could guarantee get pirated every time I went trading, because I think it's
So
Karen.
That's important because, like I said, Pyro is the end game. I think there does need to be a gradient of how much do you want this to happen. Like some situations should be the most basic missions create the most amazing stories, right? This is kind of like how they tried to make Solo as a movie for Han Solo in Star Wars. He's just running a cargo run. You could make a video about that, no problem, in Star Citizen, right? But all these different little things pop up and you got to fly through something specific, and this goes wrong and that goes wrong, and you got this on board and your ship has that problem. And it's like all these little things that stack up that distract you from what you're doing, that really simple task of A to B, that creates the story that you really love. And some people really don't like that. Some people just want to be able to run their cargo runs and do that A to B simple kind of boring stuff. And CIG needs to allow that in very high security and safe places. But there needs to be a gradient from that super safe, you're almost always guaranteed to just have that very straightforward, not very high paying, but standard cargo run, versus the super dangerous, anything can go wrong, a whole freaking saga can break out kind of stuff in Pyro. And that's where a place like Nyx comes in. That's not super dangerous, but can still allow that stuff. Or Terra, that's a little bit safer than Stanton, or it's the other one, Castra, which I don't know where that lands, but you got to have like a gradient of areas that are safe, but also supplying the same kinds of gameplay choices, or else you have that problem of players constantly thinking that they are being kept out of that 1% of gameplay. And I'm sorry, folks, but like, not a single person in this game is going to love or get to experience all of the gameplay it has to offer, and that is okay. That's actually really good for a game, I think, especially a game like this. And so I do think that they should go about trying to offer that stuff and make it easy, but at some point you gotta accept that some of the gameplay is not made for you.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, this is also one of these massive caveats with a game like Star Citizen, where in a way they're trying to make a game for everyone, right? If you're into space games, this game is trying to cover all the bases, right? You don't want to fly a ship, there's a lot you can do, right? You want to fly a ship, there's a lot you can do. It needs more progression and it needs more fleshing out in many systems, and there's even more to come, right? We haven't even like spoken about engineering and this type of stuff and how this will impact literally every time you get into your ship and go do stuff. I think it's incredibly exciting. Like I've never been more excited and more hyped to play Star Citizen than right now. Like, and a huge part of it is just because of how snappy and responsive things are. Just running around and doing stuff, interacting with. Okay, there are issues. Obviously, there's problems with glitching and things can get glitchy and stuff like this.
Falling through planets.
Compared to playing on a server with 5 FPS, it's unbelievably amazing, right? And it's, in my mind, it's no longer a question of if, it's a question of when. And I think it's just going to get better and better from here. But yeah, back to the Pyro stuff. Like, it's also just like it's such a brave new world, right? And also like I do think it's a very loud vocal minority of people who are upset about the state of Pyro or the murder hoboing, and like just how this is just such a crazy PvP game that has got no place for anybody else who's not interested in this. I kind of disagree, because how often are these people getting brutalized in their hangars or when they approach a planet, right? I can guarantee you right now, I can load up the game, get in a ship, and go somewhere and not be bothered at all on a 600 server.
Let's talk about how dangerous Pyro is, kind of how dangerous it is, and what it truly is showing right now. Because I think that's almost entirely what I wanted to get out of this podcast, is try to explain to people, what are we seeing from Pyro early on? Now, things are going to change a lot long term. Yeah. As you said, even as a pirate yourself, you're not really going after people too much, because you're waiting for things to pick up, for people to have more cargo, for the economy to get moving, which is smart. As a pirate, like, you guys can't scare people away too much. But people are wondering, what's going on in Pyro? Are you getting killed all the time? And I will say I'm not. Like, we were rolling in a group of probably 3 people, and we showed up to an outpost yesterday, and we stayed at that outpost for at least 10 minutes just exploring and doing things, and we didn't see a soul. And we've run into a couple of people who didn't start just shooting back immediately. But I don't know, what's your experience so far?
Cool. So let's split into two parts, right? So my favorite gameplay loop is probably camping Brio's Breakyard on Stanton and waiting for somebody with a ship full of drugs to land, and then you whack them and you steal all the drugs, and you've been playing the game like this, and then all of a sudden you're a billionaire. I absolutely love this. I cannot stress how fun this is to me, right? It's the most degenerate rat gameplay the game has to offer, but it's a viable way to make money, right? I mean, I think I made 36 million credits off of a Brio's hit, and that's my all-time high, right? And I thought that was incredible. It's like, cool, out of one encounter in the game, which is, and this is the problem, it's arguably very low risk, very high reward, but you're sitting there camping like a loser. It's not fun. Yeah. But what Pyro has done is it has expanded on the outpost types, right? Where Brio's is just a very simple, basic scrapyard with a kiosk and a cargo elevator. These places in Pyro are very similar, but they're so dense with content. And I started to realize this as I've been exploring Pyro and just, looking for things, and there's so many NPCs there, and there are these relay towers that you can disable, and then they said that they turn off these dropship things, and you can start seeing,
dude, that's crazy. I didn't even know that was a thing, but you can, you can straight disable their radio signals.
Yeah, I don't know how active this is yet, because remember there was a patch a while ago that said, cool, we've got our dropship tech, every now and then an NPC can spawn and drop some troops off and fly away type of thing. Yeah. I think it's that, but now it's just more dynamic, right? You can disable these towers, and I've seen, if you get close enough to the actual ground turrets, right? So if Citizens of Prosperity absolutely hate your guts, but you want to go to that outpost, you can fly in and try and deal with the turrets, or you've got to land somewhere on the periphery, get in your Dragonfly or your Ursa or whatever it is, and then drive in, and then start your engagement, right? And you can start seeing this translate to so many other things, right? Like, I've always thought, like, okay, well, wouldn't Jumptown be cool if they had like an IFFI, like in Siege of Orison, that had a shield around it? So nobody can just assault Jumptown from the sky. You have to send troops in first, type of thing. And you're starting to see this type of stuff come online now, right? And I think it's very, very exciting. So there's that aspect of Pyro, jumping into and just realizing the depth of, and how much time you can spend at one outpost, right? Yeah. You can see, cool, this outpost, it sells various commodities. A lot of them sell some kind of illicit product, right? Your illegal space, weevil eggs, or Ozoian hides, all of these like high profile commodities that have sold for so much that I hope is going to spark like a new smuggler sort of age, the golden age of smuggling might kick off now. And they've said on the economy side of things, right, they want, your TDDs at New Babbage and stuff like this, guys who buy like high quantities of commodities, right? So if you've got like thousands and thousands of gold, then you go to because they only buy those large quantities, right? You can do it with like a small quantity, but they'll purchase from you for less, but they buy a lot more. Whereas there's literally places in Pyro that buy less, but they'll pay more per SEU. So it's very exciting to start seeing, okay, cool, where are the best trade routes going to come out? You're going to be scanning YouTube and you're going to be seeing guys talking about the best routes, make 5 million credits per hour here, do this, do that.
Yeah.
And it's such an exciting time to just play the game and A, figure some of this stuff out for yourself, and B, realize what other people are doing and then capitalize on that before it gets too busy, right? And that's for me is a huge part of the excitement right now, because there are so many of these little outposts, plus the reputation gating with is it Fire Rat? Not Fire Rat, sorry. Is it Headhunters or is it Citizens?
Headhunters, yeah.
And they're at odds with each other. So it's for the first time ever, you've got to make a meaningful choice in the game that's going to impact the rest of your gameplay, right? As a guy who wants to smuggle and pirate, I need to think long and hard of which locations do I want to go to, because I don't know which ones are going to be the most popular yet. If I ruin my reputation with Citizens of Prosperity and they have one of the best trade routes, my gameplay becomes more complicated. I can't just rock up there in a ship. I've got to be more sneaky, right? And vice versa. So you've got to really kind of like think about things now. And I'm blown away by how cool this is. I didn't know that the reputation would be working the way that it is, but we've done some testing and this seems to be how it's working. So I think there's a lot more depth to just in terms of the gameplay that I enjoy. It's expanded worlds beyond what I thought was really possible, right? And this soon, because I always talk about, here's new rep stuff, here's this stuff, and it's like, cool, I'll believe it when I see it, but now I'm actually playing it and I'm experiencing it, and I'm like, I still haven't decided, am I going Citizens or am I going Headhunters, right? And once the missions start getting more fleshed out and they fix that whole, because they've been just completely disappearing for a lot of players and it's become kind of troublesome. What do the later tier missions for Prosperity and Headhunters, what does that start to look like? Are we going to start seeing some pretty cool rewards? Are we going to see some new shops opening up that you can't access? It's such an exciting time. And then, the second part of that. So that's basically my gameplay, how I'm experiencing Pyro. It's really cool to just explore, find new stuff, because there literally is so much you can do. You can go down to, say, I know this place sells eggs, or I know this place sells Azoian hides. That's 400 Space Tomorrow. That's 400,000 SCUs per Azoian hide, right? That's exciting. Like if I...
What the heck? Wait, what whose hide is that?
Azoian hides. Do you know about this?
Where are they? Where are the Zodians? What are these? Where do they find them?
Into Astropub, because this is Star Citizen has some dark lore, man.
Oh God, yeah, dude. Yeah.
Are an illegal commodity. They are literally the skin, the carapace of like a sentient species that like people hunt. So it's like it's not dark, right? But then again, there's also like human food bars that you can buy in Pyro. They're very cheap, but they exist. So this is what Golden Riviera. I'm going to set on in the video kind of a thing, like get people at these places, and they've been ticking. You can go up to the commodity terminal and see are people trading in this stuff, and they're sold out all the time. Hides are hot right now. So if you can find out where it's selling, when are the guys coming to buy, how long does it take for the stock to refresh, all this type of stuff, you've got some very exciting gameplay. And now for me, it's a question of, cool, do you wait on the ground and try and get them while they're trying to, get out the cargo elevator? Do you wait in the sky and pirate them in the atmosphere before somebody else comes down and ruins the whole thing? It's just, there's so much to consider, and it's so exciting. The game has become so much more challenging. I can't just camp in Brios and just whack a guy in from the shadows, because that's for babies. That's easy. I don't want to do that all day. We want there to be a challenge. Ask everybody in my org. We want the game to be challenging. We don't want to go around seal clubbing. We want to hit the C2 full of gold that has 1,000 escorts. We want that challenge.
And the reputation addition to that is really nice. If they happen to be reputable with the Citizens for Pyro, or Prosperity, whereas you are linked up with the Headhunters and you come in and you want to pirate a crew who's taken that trade route on, and the defenses at that outpost are linked up with Prosperity, and they decide to shoot you, and the people who are trading don't even need to have players with them to kind of get that defense they're looking for.
Yeah. It is, this might be a long shot, but it's possible now that in a place like, I think there's 2 locations that are very close together on Bloom. It's Nanara's Rest and something else. They've also going to have their own host of products and materials that they sell and trade and stuff like this. But one is prosperity, one is fire rat, and they're very, very they're within like flying distance. So I can foresee somebody taking a risk, trading solo, buying the stuff, and not coming with backup or escorts. But then people come to attack them and then steal their stuff. You could potentially fly over to that place that is now of the opposing reputation, and those turrets might help you in that situation. You might actually get yourself some backup from NPCs by just flying to the next village over type of thing. I don't know how feasible that is, how realistic that is, but I fully expect to see somebody post a Reddit story about how this happened to them.
That factors into the second part of that question, which is Pyro dangerous? Are you getting that sense of true danger there? Do you feel like it's constantly you're getting killed, or is it dangerous like you would
It's hard to say, right? My first 12 hours in Pyro was very much, let's just try and loot some stuff, let's get some gear. Fully expected to like, I have this mentality of like, whenever I see another player, I don't want to kill them. I don't want to shoot them. I want them to go about their business, and I just want to track them. I just want to gather intelligence. I want to see what they're up to. Then I can make an informed decision. Oh, what are they wearing? Oh, is it 6 subscriber gear? I've got no gear. Maybe I should go after their body for the gear type of thing. Or are they trading? Did they land close to the cargo elevator? Or, what are they up to? A lot of people do just see other players and they just want to open fire because it's Pyro, and they just want to go crazy and see explosions, right? Which I'm not on the same page as that. I want to see what people are doing. I want to start discovering the trade routes. I want to see where people are profiting, and I want to find. And this is where there's so much room for creativity. It's like, okay, cool. Where are we don't know what's going to happen. It's a brave new world. It's so exciting. There are so many commodities. We don't even know where to sell them, right? Everything's been rebalanced. Is it perfect? It's still static. It's not perfect. Things aren't dynamic, but there's enough there with enough locations and hopefully some interplay between Stanton and Pyro that we start seeing some truly exciting trade routes take form and places to pirate. I've even spoken about setting up snares, which is the classic way to go about pirating, right? You find a good route and you set up your mantis and you catch people as they come in and you scan them down, and either they've got something you want or they don't. It is just such a huge pity that things like VoIP aren't working consistently at the moment. I would love to talk first and then shoot, but again, the overwhelming sort of and I mean, is Pyro dangerous? Yes, I've been nose down. I thought that people were friendly. I was just trying to watch and see what was going on, and we got instantaneously missiled and blown out of like running around and nose like just deleted, absolutely deleted without even knowing what's going on. So I know what that feels like, right? I can make myself ignorant and be like, I just want to go to this place and do this thing, and I will land there and I will get blown up, and I'm like, Pikachu face, what? Like, well, like, why would you do this, right? I had nothing. I've been a victim as well.
So really, people just need to start playing smarter, because it sounds like there seems to be a thing where, well, actually, I'm gonna let you finish and then we'll move on.
It's a thing that, like, I'm pretty sure you've had Avenger One on your podcast before, and he's just trying to equip people with the ability to know how to become more situationally aware, because that's what it all boils down to. The game very rarely puts you in a position where you are going to get, I just don't think it's like evolved enough. I'm really not sure, right? Because in my community, on my Discord, all those guys, they watch my video, they see what we get up to. They know that if you've got a ship full of gasping weevil eggs that's worth millions, you don't just fly to Brio's by yourself in a white beacon suit with a Horizon helmet, and go in there and sell them. You either get friends or you bring guns, you wait and you watch.
People don't take the game seriously.
Exactly, right? And that problem is actually twofold, right? Because they could be seriously invested in this thing and not take the game seriously, or they're not invested at all. They're just selling this because money means nothing. I've been playing for a while now. I have every ship that I own. This doesn't really mean anything, right? And it's just how it's maybe a consequence of the pay-to-win element of Star Citizen, right? How much does stuff mean to people? And if everybody's bought everything that they could ever want, that guy doesn't care about trading. He doesn't care about, piracy trade routes. He doesn't care about players starting from scratch, zero to heroes, all this type of stuff. That dude's going to take the toys he's bought and he wants to go see stuff explode, right? There's no helping this individual. That's going to be the way he has fun in the game. Is that good? Is that bad? Who knows, right?
So the players need both more communication about what they can and can't do, what's important, what is smart to do, right? This is the place to go without this kind of stuff and all that sort of stuff. But there also need to be the time sinks and the money sinks and the things that get people to be a little bit more desperate for things. So the system itself is in a place, I think overall its addition to the game is going to be it's not going to weigh correctly in the game right now. Obviously, Pyro is not going to play how it's supposed to. It is a late stage part of the game put in before the rest of the game is made. We don't have the tools to be able to see the things that are important, and the people are bored. Like, things aren't working how they're supposed to. You talk about this idea that you want to follow somebody and track them and see what they have and understand what they're actually doing. And it's really hard to do that right now. The scanning system is not super capable of that. You can't long distance scan people. Stealth isn't as easy to play around with, although as you said, it's gotten a little bit better. So there are reasons I think that Pyro is actually more dangerous now than it will be later.
I mean, you mentioned something like long range scanning, and that's probably going to be huge, right? Depending on how that actually works. Even FPS pings and radar and stuff like this, right? Like, I spent a lot of time hiding in Brio's Breakyard, ganking people from behind and stealing their stuff. Once FPS pinging is a thing, how viable is my favorite gameplay loop? Does that go out the window? I'm not going to complain if it is. I'm going to figure out what the next thing is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do believe that once more tools and deeper, because the reputation at the moment is as cool as it is between headhunters and prosperity. It is very, and again, we haven't had enough time to like play with it and grind rep and this type of stuff. But is it got to be granular enough to make people think twice and have these experiences? I don't know. Time will tell. But I think you're spot on the money there, right? It's a lot to do with giving players more tools in game, right? First party tools, not understanding the culture outside of the game to understand what's going on. But how do you know that people camp Shepherd's Rest and love it's a murder hobo fest at Shepherd's Rest at the moment? How does a new player know this? And when you click on Bloom, and Bloom's the planet that you've heard of that looks amazing, it's got the best clouds, it's fantastic, you want to go see Bloom, the first place you see when you click on Bloom is probably going to be Shepherd's Rest, because it's bang there in the middle kind of a thing. You're going to go there and you're going to get knocked out the sky and you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the game that says, if you could launch like a long range probe that says high energy emissions detected in this area, and it goes red and it says danger. I think this is the cool kind of stuff that people would want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see the game get to a point where I get into my ship and I'm flying around and I can see distress beacons like on my star map. I want that that Captain Picard moment where it's like you're how does every episode of Star Trek begin? It's like, oh, we answered a distress signal. I want that type of stuff happening, right? We do have the beacon system. It's just very convoluted and very in the back end, right? I want to be able to bring that stuff to the forefront for players, because then if you start seeing without making it too linear, you're starting to see that if you have the correct tools, you're starting to see that dynamically occur around you. As you travel through space, you could start seeing things happening on your map that could hint towards or explain certain scenarios to you, right? I don't know how this looks or functions one day, but is this even the direction they're going? I don't know. Probably a lot of copium from my side, but
it's gonna need to be like that has to be a thing. You have to be able to understand the space you're traveling into. I want to go back to something that you said though about a couple different things really. There's a whole discussion to have around who needs to be the aggressor and who needs to be the victim when it comes to piracy in Star Citizen. Two things that brought this up. First, you mentioned smuggling, and I think it would be worth approaching the topic of piracy from the perspective of like pirates will get pirated, and in Pyro it might be the smugglers and criminals getting pirated and not victims, and what that idea is. But also I want to ask, like, we talked about NPC defenses. We are talking about server meshing and how that allows AI to do more stuff, maybe AI ships flying around. And ultimately, I want to kind of broach the question to you as a pirate, self-described. Would you say it needs to be another player that you're pirating? Or do other players need to be involved?
So I've asked this question to many people before. If you started to see AI C2s and Hull A's and B's and C's and D's flying around tomorrow on regular trade routes, and they popped into existence and they were super lucrative to hit, would Mongrel Squad stop pirating players tomorrow? The answer is probably not, because I don't think any game in existence, as soon as you have created a situation that involves AI or NPCs, they're designed to be tackled by players, right? It's something that is designed to be beaten, right? A single player game is designed to be won by the player. It's not designed to be a brick wall that you can never beat. A competitive game like Counter-Strike or Overwatch or whatever it might be is not designed to be beaten. You could play Overwatch for your entire life and never win a match if you're really bad at the game. You could never get a kill. Right? Is this a bad design? No, it's a PvP
Yikes,
game,
man.
right?
Maybe find another game. Let me show you Animal Crossing.
Yeah, exactly. So players want the challenge, right? And now this starts getting even more technical with, this conversation of like, cool, pirates want high risk, high reward gameplay, but what are you risking? Right? When a pirate goes and finds a target busy buying gold at a location, and they're like, sweet, I'm going to get set up. I'm going to wait for them. I'm going to interdict them. I'm going to take all the gold. What are they risking? The traders invested hundreds of thousands, if not millions of credits into his haul. You've risked nothing as a pirate except for your time, which is arguably worth something.
Well, that's why the ship needs to be expensive, right?
Exactly. Yes, but now the hoarders just risk twice as much, right? So it is. I've thought about this and I think it's kind of weird, and I don't know what the answers are to this. Guys in the org would say like, no, of course we risk stuff. We could die, right? We're taking on this aspect of we're putting ourselves in a position with when Death of a Spaceman is online. You risk it all, right? You could end up dying, but then again, so could they. So it does feel a little bit off balanced. But getting back to the question, if NPCs started trading cargo tomorrow and they were all highly lucrative targets, players would probably get pirated less. And this is the thing. I think piracy is a myth. I don't think people get pirated by the players that often. I think the majority of the player base plays the game, goes out salvaging, presses the button to make them tons of cash, goes home, sells it, and they're done. Yeah. I don't think people get pirated that often. I've never seen Star Citizen as a game that has a piracy problem. Right? It's just the guy who gets pirated once has that bad experience and will, then label Star Citizen as the bad game with the pirates, right? So I don't know. It's Mongrel Squad or us or whoever. We pirate because there is challenge involved. There is, especially when the other orgs get online. And that's very rare to see, but we have seen it in the past. And when they're bringing back up and we're bringing back up, you've got a whole fight on your hands. Get the boys online. These guys brought their friends. We got to get our friends. And now it becomes this massive battle over cargo. That is what people ultimately want, right?
Yeah.
Will Star Citizen ever get AI that is able to challenge orgs of pirates consistently? That's not inconceivable, right? We've seen a massive jump in NPC behaviors now, and it's super exciting. It can be super challenging, and I think it's amazing. But when we got pirated by Space Cut, did all those like a long time ago, when Salvage just came online, myself and Fair immediately left our ship, went into EVA, and counterboarded them while they were trying to board us. That's the best thing you can do, right? It's now they're unknown contacts. We're boarding their ships. We're trying to take out their pilots. They're trying to board our ship. Nobody knows what's going on. There's still this massive question mark, and nobody's quite safe yet, right? Yeah. Will NPCs ever try and counterboard you when you pirate them? Players can, and it's that challenge, that aspect. You have creativity on your side as a human being to deal with the situation, and hopefully we get even more tools to be creative with when engineering and stuff comes online. Complete copium thumbsuck, would you be able to like mimic a self-destruct to get the pirates to back off and then do a Han Solo maneuver and get out with all the stuff, like all this type of stuff, right? It becomes what's possible, what's not. Would hacking gameplay allow you to send false signatures, or who knows, right? The sky's literally the limit. But again, I'm talking out of my thumbsuck here.
Well, all these things are great, but I think there's going to definitely be things that set apart a human interaction from an AI one. The question is, can the AI interaction just simply be entertaining enough? As a pirate, and I can't really say this, I'm not a pirate, but maybe you could speak towards this. As a pirate, I think I would be okay with if I got in for, let's say, like I casually can play the game maybe 2 hours every few days throughout the week. If I spent those 2 hours, you know, I spend maybe 20 minutes getting set up, and then I'm running, let's say, 3 different piracy runs throughout the night. Like they usually take a decent amount of time to get set up, track your target, all that kind of stuff. Let's say I'm running like 3 30-minute targets throughout the night. If all of those were NPCs, and then the next time I did it, just one of those was players or 2 of those were players, like if 2 out of every 6 people I pirated were players, I think that'd be fine, because it would be enough of the general gameplay to keep me busy and keep me interested. But that idea of going against NPCs, it helps your brain almost relax a little bit. Not relax in the sense that you're not paying attention and focused, but like you're de-stressing a little because it's not as unpredictable. Yes. So that's like almost that popcorn nice gameplay that you get in between the hard rush.
Yeah. You're right,
and some people don't like that, but I think that is a completely reasonable way to at least believe the standard is set from CIG's perspective. If they were like, hey, you know, people don't have to have player bounties or player pirates all the time. They can mess around with NPCs occasionally.
I don't think it's impossible. I mean, we've already started to see it now, right? In PvPvE situations, especially in the contested zones, you sometimes go around a corner and you're like, oh shit, are those players or are those NPCs? You know, quickly go left, I'm going right, kind of a thing. And you're starting to have this interaction, but eventually you can tell when they're NPCs or when they're players, kind of a thing. But can Star Citizen ever get to a point where you cannot tell the difference between an NPC and a player? I don't think it's inconceivable. I don't think it's impossible.
I think ship flight, but
then it becomes a question of balance, right? Do they want? You know, when you start looking at it this way, it becomes very strange because you can approach it from multiple perspectives, and it becomes a case of like, okay, well, did they just introduce all of these NPC ships that are doing these big value trades that pirates shouldn't ignore because they're worth so much? Are they just now there to detract from players having a negative experience with player pirates, right? What about NPC pirates pirating players, right? How often should a cargo hauler, if you go and do 10 hauls over 10 weeks or 10 hauls a day over an extended amount of time, how often should you in your Hull C get pirated by NPCs or players?
Yeah, right? Well, we already know that's dynamic. That's like the only part of the game that is dynamic is those probability volumes. But that's also a good thing, because that should teach the players that every time they're pirated, they shouldn't freak out like it's going to be a player who's immediately going to kill them. Maybe this is an NPC who's literally just going to chat and you can dialogue your way out of the challenge. But CIG needs to get the game to a point where players aren't, the first time they hear a radar contact, their blood goes crazy, skyrockets high, they start crapping themselves and they don't know what to do. You got to like give people a chance to breathe in this game, and I think they're doing okay with that. I think, as people are saying in chat here, like, and as you're saying, it's kind of overblown.
I don't know
a little
if they
bit.
do a good job. I mean, I've been playing this game since 3.0, since before 3.0, and I still have so many issues with receiving feedback. Right? Just
that's true.
Anything you do in the game, my shields are being hit. I didn't stare at the HUD element. I didn't realize that my shields are being hit. Arguably, it's better now, but there are so many things in this game that do not provide any feedback.
You're right.
I think it's at the moment, because of where the game is in its life cycle, you will not know what to do or how to do it or how to react unless you put yourselves in those situations and practice, right? Yeah. It's the only way. I still, I'm very much known for not being a good pilot, not being a good fighter, not being a good, dog fighter guy. And that's totally fine. I don't have any aspirations to become that great. Would it help in certain situations? Absolutely, right? Like the way we run our org is like, cool, what is needed? What is the situation? What is needed? Oh, voiDude's not great in a fighter, rather take this ship. Or, oh, voiDude's ready. Oh, he happens to have FPS gear right now. You should get on my ship and get ready to board.
Yeah.
That's what I absolutely love about the game and the way that we've been playing lately is that, you're always just, you're kind of fitting into the machine, right? And there's so much, like how many people do you think right now don't even understand that you can be pirated? right? People play this game, like, for the longest time, even post 3.18, they did not realize that when you got killed by pirates, they were actually taking and profiting off of your cargo. People play this game not realizing that that's a thing that can even take place. And that says a lot. That's even more to your point of the lack of in-game communication tools, or like whatever players need to understand how things are working.
It's not even just that. There's so much about this game that you can't know. That's why that Star Citizen 1.0 panel was so important, because people don't know about that being part of the game. Yeah. How many more people then must not know where the game's supposed to be? If you can't know what the game plays like now, how are you supposed to know what it's going to play like in 1, 2, or 5 years? And
exactly,
that's like a serious problem that CIG has on their hands. We can see it playing out right now with engineering, with cargo, with piracy, with balancing the ships. Almost everything that they do, there's backlash because people don't know it's supposed to be changing quite a bit. And this is definitely going to be a big part of that. I think this will be a persistent part of this conversation even after the game comes out.
Yeah. If for the guys out there who are interested in Star Citizen, but they take massive issue with the fact that Pyro is very exciting, very cool. They want to explore it. They want to go and spend time in it, but they are legitimately, and I mean, some people do have valid reasons to feel this way, don't want to get ganked every time they leave their hangar, right? It's legitimate, and I don't think that the community should just create this culture of like, oh, that's Pyro, it's what. I think it should more adopt a strategy of like, well, cool, educate and teach how to play the game for what it is now, because what the game is now, in my opinion, because of, and again, it's a perspective thing, what the game is doing right now for me is the most exciting and the most glorious it's ever been. Like, I cannot tell you how hard I'm going to play this game tonight. Like, I can't wait, and it's also, that's compounded by the fact that we have just had a wipe and there's a lot to do. We need to get our gear set up. We need to get money. We need to do this. We need to do that. There's money sinks. There's new exciting trade routes and all this stuff. And I'm having an absolute blast, right?
Yeah.
But there is a lot missing. There is a lot still that has to come, right? And a lot of other people. And again, I'm not all-knowingly knowledgeable on this title, right? I still make massive mistakes. I don't grasp everything that there is to grasp. It's a deep game with a lot of complex systems, but at the same time, it is a shallow game without enough complex systems. You know what I mean? It's such a weird, paradoxical, sort of counterintuitive thing that we're dealing with here, and that is a side effect of the fact that they're trying to make the game cater to so many people with so many interests, right?
And I think that's dangerous. Like, they're doing, obviously they want to make a bunch of different professions and jobs you can do in this game, and that's good, but at the same time, as far as game design philosophy goes, I think they need to be careful with how many different types of people they're catering to.
There is a lot to be said with them, with games doing what they do well, right? It's like a game hyper specializes in a certain type of gameplay mechanic and it becomes a good game because they're hyper specialized. Will they ever be able to make every gameplay loop, every encounter, everything you're capable of doing polished, refined, fun, deep, meaningful? It's a big ask, man. But like, I don't know. Year on year, I think we're slowly getting there, to be honest.
The biggest thing to mention there, I think, is that all those things are subjective. Because if they built this game and they tried to make all of those things interesting to everybody, it would absolutely fail. There has to be people who do not like cargo hauling, because you got to be able to group up in your group of people and find the person who does like cargo hauling who can take over that part of the game. If you have to have a tractor beam person to move cargo while you're doing your looting missions, then tractor beaming needs to be fun enough for somebody to want to do it, but not so fun that everybody brings a tractor beam and removes the job requirement for that one person who likes to do it. And I think that applies for all the different parts of the game, but it does mean that everybody is going to look at different parts of the game and be like, ew, absolutely that's gross. I don't like that. I don't want to do that, because that's just how it's got to be when there's this many things. And it's okay to look at the cargo and say, I hate moving boxes. I don't want to do that. That's fine. Because there's 20% of the community is out there absolutely wanting to do that.
It demands a lot of flexibility on the average player, right? And there is this mentality of like, okay, cool, I'm going to play Star Citizen, I'm going to be a medic, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to heal people. I'm going to be the ultimate medic there is. but it's not that kind of game. You didn't have to invest time and skill points into becoming a medic. Anybody can go pick up a med gun and be a medic, right? And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Should everybody be the ultimate at everything, right? Which is a whole nother discussion because of that whole skill system thing that they spoke about. Like the more time you spend in the seat of a gladius, the more you'll build up your resistances and get better at that. Or I don't know. It's a whole other kettle of fish. But at the moment, it's like for the way we play the game, there's a bit of a demand on flexibility and the outcome of the situation, right? You could roll in our org and spend the entire night in the cockpit of your ship playing Overwatch because there's a big hole on the ground and we don't want anybody to give us a surprise. So there's one guy in the ship watching and just waiting for something to pop up on the radar. And that's he's going to do that for the next hour. You know what I mean? Is that fun? For us, it is. Yeah. For everybody, probably not.
Last question before we wrap things up here. We've been talking about this a lot from group perspectives, but I don't know about you. I actually prefer playing things solo. I like doing things separately.
I enjoy my time by myself in Star Citizen.
And I think Star Citizen attracts a lot of people who are like that because it is a game that offers something that not even many single player games do. So if you want that experience, you kind of got to play the MMO. So I know there are a lot of people who are trying to stay away from folks, and this has been a bigger topic coming up recently. So I'd like to address this here as well. Gameplay, in my opinion, is not being made for one group or the other, where it's solo players or not solo players. It seems it depends on which tools you have. If you've got a certain type of ship, you'll have the ability to do more solo versus another type of ship. If you have types of weapons or a med gun or tractor beams or things like that, you can do it. Like you can take on solo objectives that can clearly also be handled by groups. So I ask you this. From what you've seen in Pyro so far, protecting yourself to missions, to outposts, to all the different types of gameplay you've seen, and it's just been a couple days, but so far, would you say that a solo player can find a good time in Pyro?
Absolutely. Right now, yes. Depending on your ship and stuff like that. And if you're the type of player like me, playing solo and getting put in these positions where shit hits the fan, people rock up, danger becomes real, it makes the experience even better. I don't go into it expecting to just win, right? I go into it expecting a lot of pressure, a lot of struggle. If you play the game solo, you're playing the game on hard mode, right? And it really just depends on the tools that you have at your disposal. But there is nothing better than going into the game solo, having something happen at an outpost or something, but you've somehow come up with some kind of goal that will actually make your gameplay better. Like, I really want to get that armor out, or I really want to get, there's 100 gasping mover legs lying on the ground there. I need to get them out before somebody else comes, but you don't have a ship that's big enough. Then somebody else comes, you're all by yourself, but they brought a bigger ship. Oh, now you've got some emergent gameplay on yourself. Now it's you or them. Are they going to go for the eggs? Are they going to ignore the eggs? Do you kill them and steal their ship and load up the eggs and get out of there with their ship? It just the emergent gameplay then just goes, through the roof, and that's what I look forward to. Right? Does this become less viable with the advent of engineering and all this type of stuff? Probably, but not impossible. This is what I love about the game. They're never going to make anything impossible. They're just making it. They're giving it more good friction, not bad friction, good friction. Right?
You can still fly the big ship.
Exactly. I love the idea of running around in my Corsair by myself when I get into a tough situation and figuring out, can I do this to survive and run here and repair this thing and then get back into my seat and talk to the guy and say, whoa, let's talk. Convince them to talk and then go and do something skullduggery behind them to come out on top. I think there's so much room for creativity to make this game something that we will never see come close. That's my true feeling.
I am excited to play in Pyro as a solo player. Once VoIP works, I think that's the really big thing that's holding this game back right now in that regard. But and coming across people who want to group up in Pyro and see how that kind of stuff will play out. Will they betray me? Will we do something cool? Will we fight other people? That's really exciting.
Those are special stories, man. And that's the thing, right? At the end of the day, no matter how much time you invest into any game, doesn't matter what you're getting out of it. What you treat items, gold, it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, the game's the game. You only walk away with your stories. Yeah. And I just hope that lots of people have lots of stories to tell throughout Pyro. It's an exciting time.
Yep, that's why we play. All right, Void, dude. I always love these talks.
Likewise.
Yeah, man, I love catching up. We don't get enough time on this show. We gotta talk some more. Actually, we gotta hop in game here soon. And
yeah, I think that's definitely going to be on the cards. Some rotten tomato. Well, we'll do it both ways. How about you join us for some piracy, and I'll join you, and we'll just go 2-man Pyro together.
I think so, man. I think we got to do a little duo Pyro adventure and see what we can come up with, man. It should be good times. But thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. If you want to let all the folks know where they can find you and what kind of content they can find there if they haven't already figured it out from the talk.
Cool. YouTube.com/ or at voiDude on YouTube, VOIDYVIDS. I try to do videos, at least one video a week, sometimes more, but at least one video a week, guaranteed. That's my promise.
Awesome.
And then twitch.tv/voiDude. That's where I'm at. We play the ludicrous space game. We do some piracy. We do some solo stuff. And most importantly, we try to have fun. That's what it's all about.
Funniest Star Citizen gameplay on YouTube so far. I would check it out. It's good stuff. All the ships get names. All the guns get sounds. It's all good times, man. I appreciate you for that content. Thank you for putting it out.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
And thank you again for joining me today, folks.
Anytime.
It's a big time for Star Citizen and for all of us. It's the end of the year. Yay! 2025 is probably going to be an adventure. Looking forward to it though. 4.0 is finally out, so we have things to move forward with. This is our second last episode of the year. Thank you all for listening this year. It's been an incredible year of growth and for the podcast in general, but I am looking forward to an exciting next year. It's really up in the air what might come after this, and that's both terrifying and exciting. So thank you everybody for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed the launch sequence. Merry Christmas to you all. I'll see you next week for the last episode. Have a good one.